After having so much trouble with their car called the W13 in 2022, everyone thought that Mercedes would bring a totally different car to practice testing in Bahrain this year. But guess what? To everyone's surprise, the new W14 car didn't look much different from the W13, which had a big problem with bouncing up and down and wasn't very fast at all. But after a really bad first race in Bahrain, Mercedes had to face the scary truth when the tough reality of the W14 was shown to the Mercedes bosses. Things don't look good for the silver cars at all, not now and not later either. Even though the Silver Arrow cars don't seem to be bouncing as much as they did last year, the W14 is still having big problems with being fast and staying balanced. People thought that Mercedes was lying about their practice times, but Lewis Hamilton and George Russell got 6th and 7th place for starting the Bahrain race, which was really bad news for their fans. After Charles Leclerc had to drop out of the race, Hamilton came in 5th place and George Russell came in 7th place. The W14 didn't look like it could keep up with Red Bull, Ferrari, or even Aston Martin cars. Mercedes fans are really mad that the team hasn't gotten much better since the 2022 season. They are now starting to blame the team's head engineer Mike Elliott. After that, Mike Elliott needs to quit his job because his job situation is hopeless, one angry Mercedes fan wrote on Twitter. Elliott would have had to decide as the head engineer whether to keep using the zero sidepod design this season, even though Red Bull and Ferrari showed that this wasn't the best way to build cars with the new rules. Since the Bahrain race, Mercedes fans have sent out hundreds of tweets asking for Elliott to be fired because the team hasn't done well enough so far this season. Mercedes sells engines to Aston Martin, so the fact that Aston Martin went from 7th place last season to being faster than the silver cars because of how they built their cars will really hurt Elliott's feelings. If Aston Martin really passed US when they were 1.5 seconds slower than us, Mercedes needs a total makeover and lots of tough hiring decisions, starting with firing Mike Elliott. Another unhappy Mercedes fan wrote on Twitter. Toto Wolff, who is the boss of the team, has already said that they made a mistake. Mercedes is already looking into a different way to build cars because they can see how far behind their competitors they are. Another problem Mercedes is facing is what might happen in the future with their star driver and legend of the sport, Lewis Hamilton. On Sunday, Hamilton finished a whole 51 seconds behind the winner Max Verstappen. The 7-time world champion's contract ends at the end of this season, and people are talking a lot about how he might wait to sign a new deal if Mercedes can't fix their problems. When asked if the Silver Arrows will make a backup plan if Hamilton doesn't agree to stay longer, team boss Toto Wolff said there's no point talking about the driver situation for 2024 because that's way too early. We all have to work together in the same direction, the drivers, engineers, and management, instead of giving up. We have never given up before and we will not give up now. In the days before the Bahrain race, Hamilton, who is 38 years old, said that he would only leave Mercedes if something really terrible happened. But his words came before he went out on the track and they showed how bad things were for his team. Wolff said the day before Sunday's race that Mercedes will throw away this season's car and focus on a completely new design to get back to winning. This pretty much ended any chance of winning the championship before they even started racing. Mercedes is now even further behind Red Bull, which got 1st and 2nd place on Sunday. They have also been passed by Aston Martin, which has made a lot of progress over the winter. This week, Wolff will have important talks with his Mercedes team to figure out how the once powerful team can get back to being great again. When the race was over, Hamilton said, "I know we are not where we want to be, but let's keep trying. We have got some serious work to do to close the gap, but I believe in all of you, so let's keep going." Wolff added to Lewis's comments by saying that the friendship between Mercedes and Hamilton is strong, having won 18 championships and 6 driver championships with him driving the car. The answer Mercedes might find in the most unexpected place. In Bahrain, Aston Martin beat Mercedes in both the practice round and the race. The Mercedes engine, gearbox, hydraulics, and rear suspension are all used in the AMR-23 car. This means that both teams use the same back parts of their cars. Aston Martin also uses the Mercedes F1 wind tunnel while it waits for its new super advanced building to be finished next year. This doesn't mean that Mercedes will just copy Aston Martin. And it also doesn't mean that they will share any secrets about air design, which is against the rules. Wolff's point is that the fact that Aston Martin is using the Red Bull idea, which has become normal with these new rules, shows that it can work with that car's back end. Aston Martin started out last year with a car that also had a lot of bouncing and jumping around. In May, a big update to the side parts changed the car's direction, so it has a similar story to Mercedes. Lewis Hamilton said after the Bahrain race that half of their car is ours and they do their air testing in our wind tunnel, so we have some work to do. So it makes sense for Mercedes to watch closely what Aston Martin is doing to see if there are any lessons they can learn. It will do the same thing with the other 8 cars on the track because it wants to find the right idea. That will give it better performance right away and more room to get better in the long run. Wolff said that the Red Bull gap was 2 or 3 times bigger than it was at the end of last season. Because of this, Mercedes is now thinking about changing the way it develops cars to get more performance out of them. Wolff said that the recovery work would start in the next few days. However, he did say that other ideas were already being looked at because they were worried about how competitive the car would be over the winter. This is something that all teams do, and Mercedes is known to have tried out a sidepod shape more like Red Bull's in computer testing and in the wind tunnel, but without getting the numbers they needed to make a change. But it's likely that the team has already put in more work to look into these directions that could make it join the growing number of companies based on the Red Bull idea. Sergio Perez joked that it was nice to see 3 Red Bull cars on the podium after Alonso finished 3rd. It's clear that the planned upgrade for Imola, which the team says will change how the car looks, but which head engineer Mike Elliott says will still go in the Mercedes direction, won't be enough. Wolff says that the most important thing for Mercedes is to find a way to make the information work and, most importantly, build a solid starting point again. The clear meaning is that Mercedes has been so focused on making sure this car idea works that it may have missed the fact that other directions could have led to better performance. But the problem is that if the information from the wind tunnel and computer testing doesn't support other paths, the team needs to figure out what it's missing if it wants to turn things around. In another interview after the race, Wolff said that the team needs to change the way they think about things. The phrase "change the way they think" seems to be the key one here. Mercedes is set to open up its thinking about car development in the coming months. Whether that means a dramatically different visual change or something more subtle, both are possible since it's the underfloor performance that's most important. It is clear that looking at this problem with a different way of thinking could be key to making the right changes. For years, Mercedes was winning by forcing their design to work. They had the best engine, biggest budget, and developed the air package looking mostly at maximum downforce. Since Ferrari was lacking in air design, Red Bull had a better, more detailed air package but lacked power. They couldn't catch Mercedes. The rest of the teams had less than half of the budget compared to those top 3 teams, so they were out of the competition. Now, the spending limit led to limited resources, and new rules seem to help detailed design over maximum downforce. Thinking this spending limit now is helping the teams that used to depend on driver skill rather than just having lots of workers. This means that unless Mercedes takes a talented driver from some other team on the track, they might have big problems catching up to Red Bull, and that's the harsh truth. What are your thoughts about Mercedes? Do you agree that they need big changes, as Wolff said? Let us know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below, and thank you for watching.